Please raise your right hand.
Homemaker Heather Reisinger is suing her former tenants for rent. Defendants Jeffrey and Tanya S. say the plaintiff illegally terminated their tenancy.
Please proceed.
In May of 2007, my husband and I rented our property in Long Beach to Mr. and Mrs. S. We were aware that they had some credit issues and were compassionate that they had been through some health problems. They provided us a co-signer, so we felt comfortable renting the property to them. Once rented, they were chronically late with rent. We, again, tried to be compassionate about it. They had situations that we were concerned about, but as time went on, we continued to be concerned that their rent would come later and later and later. So in February of 2008, we served the first 3-day notice.
And times are getting hard. You know, just because somebody is suffering doesn't mean you need to also.
We definitely cared about their situation, but at the end of the day, we have a mortgage to pay on the property.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
So after the first 3-day notice in 2008, communication with them became very difficult. My husband would try to call them, text them. We rarely got return responses.
We return responses all the time.
Well, she's alleging, sir, that no such timely and responsive communications occurred. So you may reply. Just keep that in mind so you don't forget that point. All right, keep going, ma'am.
So in May of 2009, we still didn't ask them to leave. We just asked to, rather than renew the lease, to go on a month-to-month basis. After the lease was over, we thought we would take it 30 days at a time and continue to do so. And then in previous circumstances, we served a 30-day notice in November when we didn't receive the rent.
And you also note there was waste to the premises, some damages. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, there was. And I do have photo evidence of when they moved in.
Looks like a nice little place.
Thank you. The bathroom there was the biggest issue. The cleaning company that I hired to come in and clean it would not clean that bathroom until I pressure washed it myself. So I had to clean it myself, use a wet vac to get all of the dirt out, and then a cleaning company came in to take care of it.
I note the absence of a lawnmower here.
We did have a gardener hired to take care of the property, and that eventually was terminated because the gardener couldn't get into the property due to the S's dog and because they wouldn't unlock the gate. They eventually parked a car. We're told by people that live nearby told us that a car had been parked back there for several months prior to them leaving.
We'll be back with more Judge Joe Brown in a moment.
He said, well, we got to have the money. I submitted some text messaging back and forth, and he threatened.
Well, did you get the money?
No, we were not able to borrow the money. We still did not have that money replaced.
You are obviously, if what you two say is true, some of the most unlucky people.
Closed captioning sponsored by...
We are back with Judge Joe Brown. The plaintiff says her new tenants had questionable credit, but she decided to give them a chance. She says the defendants were chronically late, so she asked them to leave. Let's take a look.
Mr. and Mrs. S., which one of you wishes to speak?
That'll be me, Judge Joe Brown, first. Yeah, we feel we don't owe them, owe the money because we, lost the rent checks were stolen. Two different checks were stolen.
I'm trying to understand it. Now, if I got what you're saying in your answer, you say that you supposedly, left the check at the front door?
The first check I mailed, and then I
mailed
to him.
Didn't get to them.
Right. He called and said about 6 days later saying he didn't receive the check, and I said, okay. He said, just place another check on the door, and I will pick it up. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do that. I placed the check on the door before I left for work that morning. My wife was there that day, and he came to pick the check up, and he knocked on the door, and he said, where's the check? And she says, I don't know. She called me at work, and I stated that I had left it on the mail, on the door, just like he had asked. And he said, well, it's not there. I immediately contacted my bank, and they stated that the first check had been cashed at a check cashing facility in the Los Angeles area. I said, well, who cashed it? And they said it was the signature on the back was the plaintiff's husband. I said, well, if it wasn't you, it was somebody that has an ID with your name and stuff on it. And we went from there.
It's not always the case, but
true.
Go ahead.
But we went ahead and, he said, well, we got to have the money. I submitted some text messaging back and forth, and he threatened.
Well, did you get the money?
No, we were not able to borrow the money. The money had been cashed. The check was cashed
if it's
and
fraud, forgery, then
Judge Joe Brown, this is the first I am ever hearing of a check
be put
cashing.
back in. What about the following month?
The following month, we had already received the 3-day notice, which was illegally served, and we still did not have that money replaced. And they had already determined and given us the 30-day notice, which was also not properly served.
So your contention is that through outright fraud, someone intercepted the check you mailed and the check you put on the front door, and you could not resolve the fraud issue. Have you done so since?
No, Judge
Well,
Joe
that's
Brown.
an awful long period of time for that. That's quite a few months. That's almost a half a year.
Yeah,
well,
we
a half
had
year.
additional problems with our account that the bank had informed us
Oh.
of. There was electronic fraud transactions.
My, you a very unlucky couple.
Judge Joe Brown,
Seem to have had these calamitous coincidences coming down on your heads to
this is
cause
not
you
the first time the
inconvenience.
S's claimed that the rent was stolen from their front door either. It was claimed on and used as an excuse more than once to us when the rent was late. And so we did ask them if they would always mail a rent check in one of the 2 post offices that are walking distance to the property in the first place.
Well, you know, we don't have post office boxes anymore. Things are different. Now, I will feel badly for you. You are obviously, if what you two say is true, some of the most unlucky people. And maybe you need to go hound an elected official about having better law enforcement, or a congressman to do something about the mail situation, or, I don't know, get some kind of talisman that will give you luck.
Judge Joe Brown makes his ruling after this.
Did you waste love and loot on a loser? Call 1-877-JOE'S-LAW or visit JudgeJoeBrown.com.
You'll get lucky here and you'll get more unlucky here, so that's $22.58 and your cost. Award accordingly.
Thank you.
Now, recess. Go ahead and exit straight ahead.
Well, the plaintiff was clear she had a lot of compassion for the defendant's situation, but at the end of the day, the mortgage on the property had to be paid. And now so does the award settlement as Judge Joe Brown sides with the plaintiff. We'll be right back.